This past Friday, we finally got regional information for Union Arena, or at least the first look at it. So in today's video, we're going to cover the latest news that we just got, give the pros and cons, at least my thoughts on it, and at the very end, I want to give you 5 different decks, one for each color, that you can get ready to play and must know about to get ready for these regionals, because these are competitive decks to look out for. So without further ado, let's dive in. So first and foremost, yes, the website does always get Friday updates, as we like to look forward to them. So anytime that you can expect news, definitely just refresh on a late Thursday night or early Friday morning, depending on where you're at. And we got this nice banner update for the Championship 25-26 series. And really importantly, just scrolling right down to the bottom, the most important thing to note is that there are going to be offline regionals from August to December, the first one being at Gen Con, which we're going to talk about shortly, and then a invite-only North American finals. Now, immediately one of the things that jumped out to me is that there is a January-February timeline here, right? There's a range, and typically, if we were to expect like a grand finals, that should happen in one weekend. And at least for right now, there's not a timeline that works where you would have a weekend that's like, end of January leading into February. So this leads me to believe that there's going to be a couple different events. So there might be a couple different finals where then the people that win each of those goes to Worlds. Definitely feels like there's some more information to look out for, but the biggest thing about this is that yes, you are going to need to win an invite to get to these final events. So the other part that we got was the prize breakdown. Where's the first regional going to be? And that is where we have this other tab. So again, as I mentioned, August 1st through December 31st is when we can expect these to fire them off. And the first one is going to be at Gen Con. Now, I love going to Gen Con. I am located in the Midwest, so it's very easy for all of us to drive to it, get a hotel, stay there. However, it can be a more expensive event or venue to get to. And then on top of that, as I click through and as I looked into this, it's actually going to be at Sunday. Yes, at least it's in the morning. But Sunday is always the day that you're either, if you're going to Gen Con, which if you don't know, Gen Con is the 4 best days in gaming, especially for tabletop fans or trading card game fans. It's always the time to check out new games, demo new stuff, or buy stuff. And Sunday is vendor hall day, where you always get discounts on goods, assuming there's something left. Because spoiler, people don't want to take it back home with them. So myself included, I am usually someone who, if I want to plan my day, I usually go check for some last deals on Sundays at the vendor hall, and then I drive home, because it's about a 4 to 5 hour drive for me heading back, and it's always nice because I just work on Monday. So Sunday is always kind of a checkout day for me, but this means that if you are someone who wants to play in this event, you will have to stick around. Yes, at least it's early enough in Saturday. And because it's going to be best of 1 matches and there's going to be no top cut, this is going to be a very fast event. However, the thing I will say is that this is limited to 256 players, especially at Gen Con. It can always be a little bit more difficult to get table space just because people have to book it way in advance. There's only so many seats that they have available for all the different games they get hosted. This isn't just a Bondi thing, right? This is literally every card game is going to be there sort of thing. And they're all kind of trying to punch each other out for getting more, 1 or 2 extra tables. It is quite competitive. As when I remember back to my Force of Will days, like, trying to get spots for Gen Con used to be very difficult, and that was when there was far less card games in the industry, so I can only imagine what it's like now. Again, that said, I think this is at least good to see, and especially an opportunity to get Union Arena out there and get people excited at Gen Con and see how it goes. But I do know that Sunday is going to be a little bit rough, because that is generally the go home day or get out early. But then again, because it's best of 1, maybe that's fine. People get out there quite early. Again, the latest it's probably going to go is 3 o'clock. If you joined us at any of the Bondi Card Games Fest and join us for rare battles, things of that nature, like, the rounds are scheduled for 35 minutes, but generally people are done in 20. So these are very fast events. Once you get used to playing Union Arena and kind of get through it, the tournament is going to go very fast. So Bondi, if you're watching, please, can we get best of 3, 4, top 8? Definitely let me know in the comments below if you guys agree, because, like, look, we could make this happen in a day and still get in and out really quickly. So one thing I will say up front, I am hoping that this changes. I know that there are a ton of side events and other stuff that Bondi likes to do where it is just standings after Swiss, you go till 1 undefeated, but I'd love to see a playoff like we had for some of the other Bondi games that we've played in the past. And I definitely think Union Arena could benefit from a best of 3, at least for those last few rounds. Getting back to it, let's talk about prizing. Like, what are we even here for, right? Other than the getting a invite to the finals, which really feels like the most important thing that's going to come out of all of this, because of course that will have even bigger prizing, more special stuff. You still want to go to these and make sure that you're like getting value for your time, right? You got to get something to walk through. And of course, all the images will be at the bottom here, which we'll go through. But for signing up, you are going to get a action point card that has a Regionals 25-26 stamp on it. And this is what I want to like take a step back on, because I know a lot of people are divided on this a little bit, but at least for me, I really do love that we are getting more specialized action points. I really wish we had these serialized and hand-signed action points that they have in Japan, maybe one day. But at the end of the day, action points are something that are always on your field and always front and center, right? If you have prize cards and if you're someone who is wild enough that wants to shuffle them up and put them in the deck, you're only going to see them sometimes, right? So at least for me personally, I know that I really am heavily biased towards action points because they're always front and center available. They have a lot of good designs too in Japan. So I like this, but I know a lot of other people were saying like, let's get finals that can go in decks, or let's get, especially for rare battles, you know, leaning a little bit more into that. It's like, let's get extra special alt arts for the rare battles instead of just the chromatic swaps. I definitely see both sides of it, but I am someone who really loves action points, so I think this is pretty cool. I'm assuming that they're going to be foil. I would hope so, but no way of knowing, at least right now. Storage box is what we've seen at the special large-scale rare battles that they've had. I have one. I'm someone who just likes to carry my Union Arena decks in a storage box. It kind of keeps them all together, so not just tumbling around in my bag. So nice little thing. If you haven't got one yet, they're actually pretty decent, so nice little throw-in. And then the event packs, which... Again, the downside here is that these event packs are widely available at the rare battles, and in Japan, rare battles aren't as common. They are strictly side events for larger tournaments, and the rare battles themselves, or the rare battle prizing, has a much higher value compared to at least here in the States, where it feels like every single store can get them. They don't always fire, or stores are just selling them, right? So I don't know if the solution here is to make it where it's only like silver stores and higher, or maybe even only gold stores, right, could host rare battles just to make them feel a little bit more worth going to. And of course, there's always the downside of if it's not an IP you don't care about, it's going to have less players at it, that side as well. So I'm curious to see how they might balance this going forward, or maybe, again, we can get event packs that are the same cards but have a stamp on them. I know there's all types of licensor issues that kind of go into this, and that's why the announcement was most likely delayed as long as it was, because, again, we're here in May, and all the other Bandai games have had much more announcements, you know, weeks ago. So we'll have to wait and see what this plays out as the competitive season goes on and we see some of the other regionals. Top 8, you're getting an extra event pack. The Union Arena Promotion Pack 2025 One Punch Man Terrible Trainer at the bottom. I think this is something that's North American exclusive. I keep trying to find it from the Japan releases, and either they haven't got it yet, or maybe they'll get in the future, but it's cool to at least see some kind of promo. Obviously, if you're not a One Punch Man fan, this might not land as well. It would be nice to see more variety, but it is still nice that we get to see something that is going to have this really nice gold treatment. Top 64, we're getting more of those action point card sleeves. It does say randomly distributed from these titles. I am a sucker for someone who loves to get the idea of having all the action point sleeves to sleeve up a full deck. So it'd be really cool if we could do that. However, this does have a regional stamp on it, or a regional, logo. So this will be slightly different than what we get at the rare battles. But trying to get a full set of these when it's only for, the top 64 is going to be extremely, extremely difficult. So I definitely feel like these ones are going to be reserved for action points. And then here's where it really starts to get good, at least for me. Again, I am someone who is going to appreciate a prizing that has some type of, I can either show it off like really well with the action points, or other areas where it's something I would put on like a slab and put on a display in my home, what have you, right? Some type of trophy card. And I'll put up an image here really quickly of the other action points for the second anniversary that they're doing right now. But I really love these special action point cards that they do out of Japan. So I'm hoping this will be like the all gold style that we have. And honestly, 3 of these, if you were to just get like 2 more top 32s, or maybe you go to all the regionals and earn them, and maybe they're going to be different versions, I think this would be really sick to have all 3 top 32 action points for when you're playing. So I'm hoping we see something like that. There is, of course, going to be a top 16 version. So, of course, if you top 16 multiple of them, that's going to be, another flex as well. But the big part here, of course, is the invite to the North American Finals. Now, a lot of time to hurry up and wait, it feels like, to get that more information. I know that Bandai usually holds those types of announcements close to their chest till later in the year, as a way to kind of drive up hype, drive up more engagement for maybe those last rounds of regionals. But hopefully the finals is where this is really all going to accumulate to be some really amazing prizing at the top end that players are excited about. But, you know, top 32 again is where it really starts to peak for me, and then top 16 being the big one for the invite. Now, here's where it gets a little crazy, and I really wish I could find the old photos. Before putting this video together, I was really trying to find the old example, but in Japan, they did these really awesome gold styling rare battle cards that I just look so good, and I'm hoping that's exactly what this is going to be, and it looks like it will have some type of North American exclusive design or logo maybe with it. But you do get to choose from these various tiles. Now, again, immediately I know that there might not be, you know, the exact card that you're looking for, or it might not have all the options, especially if you're someone who is looking forward to a Sword Art Online, for example. So that is, again, where I have to maybe take a step back and really wish that we had all the options to choose from, probably just a licensing thing. But at the end of the day, something like Nikke is going to go for just big money. If you want to talk about more like the prizing and the monetary value side of it, Nikke, that is going to be easy money. Obviously, there is going to be things like Demon Slayer still very, very popular, maybe more for a Japan audience. I know Bleach is still getting a lot of hype right now. So there are at least some here that I think are going to be kind of top picks and could definitely easily sell well. And then, you know, for me, I guess JJK technically also being another really big one, especially for people who want to bling out their deck. But then people like me who just still like the anime, and I know it doesn't get a lot of love and it's just not as popular, but Hunter x Hunter, I think that a golden card would go hard, right? Gold style, but especially if someone who is just trying to recoup the cost of traveling to an event, I throw the Nikke one online and it's going to sell. That is just like hands down easiest thing. Second through fourth place, you are going to get a finalist playmat. You are going to get some additional action point card sleeves. So in this case, you are going to get each one of them. So again, you can flex your sleeves for each one of them. And then the insane one to me that is like way more than I would have thought. And before I get into this, I totally understand and would have liked to see a little bit more of the prizing broken down to like top 64 and maybe like shift everything down a tier. But this champion, Regionals 25-26, gold union rare card, one each of every single one of these is going to be sick. And also, some of these are exclusive to the champion. So you will have a one-of-one gold rare card. For the right collector, these are going to be insane selling opportunities, right? First off, it's going to look gorgeous from an all gold display. I really hope they get some kind of like plaque display to have these all set up. But man, when I looked at these two lists and I realized that some of these were going to be, you know, exclusive only for the champion, one of one style, right? If for the right buyer, those are going to be insane prize cards. Now, again, you have to give them up. And maybe that's something that you don't want to do, especially if you are like the first regional champion. You want to hold on to the full set. Totally understand. But some of these are definitely going to have a nice prize amount to them. And of course, we get more card sleeves. And then the champion action point, which again, we'll just say champion on it, I would have to imagine. I'm really looking forward to seeing what those look like. And then again, just quickly going through some of the images. Action point, we have to wait and see what it's going to look like. Japan does this really cool, like multi-IP. They did a final card, if I remember correctly, last, and hopefully we see more of that. Storage box is what we expect. The event packs, again, these are just going to be the rare battles. The biggest news here is that the Orihime that was previously removed in Bleach Volume 1 is making a comeback, so that's really exciting. 4 and 5 will get revealed as it gets closer. The Terrible Tornado promo, as I mentioned, that's something is going to have this like really nice gold foiling. If you know other Bandai card games, you know what this style of gold stamping around the outside means. You know exactly what that is going to look like. Action point card sleeves, again, to be determined. And then the top 32, top 16, and the champion, there it is, at the very end. The champion will be crowned there, and we'll see what that looks like. So again, we'll get all of those kind of probably updated at the same time, because there's going to be some like top 16 stamp on it, top, you know, champion stamp on it, what have you, and then the finalist playmat as well. So definitely look forward to more information here coming soon once it's all available. And then of course, for the side events, you will have more rare battles, but we have to wait and see, you know, are we maybe hopefully getting additional prizing put into it like they did with the storage boxes, or was it a deck case? I forget now, for the core TCG and some of those other ones. So Rare battles, while yes, they have a certain feel for them at the local level, I do hope we will see more exclusive prizing for the large scale version. And so if you want to see more of that, definitely make sure to check it out in the surveys that give a response of what type of prizing do you want, right? Bandai is very clearly asking about this. And while I tweeted about this a lot and I posted in the Facebook group, maybe people don't check those two areas or don't know yet, but this year, or just this fiscal year, I should say, is Bandai is actually investing a lot of money into player research and player sentiment. And so they are reading every single survey response that gets submitted, and or the company that they're hiring to do all this, to figure out what is going to drive player engagement at the end of the day and improve prizing, improve turnout, what have you. So if you want to see better prizing or different prizing in Union Arena, you absolutely need to be checking out these surveys and make sure that you're submitting them. So that was really quickly just the overall review that we have, or the information so far for the regionals. Again, I am very excited. I do have some, hesitations around the Sunday and Gen Con. In my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to cap at 256 just being on a Sunday, but if we can get even like 128, I think that'd be a very, very, very good turnout for a Sunday Gen Con event. As someone who's been going to Gen Con for 10 years, Sundays are just not it for turnouts and tournaments, right? It's always the Friday, Saturday leading up to it, and then Sunday has a much lower turnout historically if it's not just like the invite day, because most events usually will have some kind of qualifiers that lead into their big payoff on Sunday, and or they'll have just a small pod kind of firing off at the end. So we'll have to wait and see. I would love to get 128 for the Sunday tournament, but if it sells out for 256, that would be amazing. And hopefully it really goes to show Bandai that we want more of these events. But with that out of the way, if you are a new player joining us in Union Arena and don't know where to start, let's talk about those 5 different decks that I've mentioned, one for each color to get you started and get you ready for a more competitive look at the game. But first and foremost, I have to add a quick shout out here to the Draw 3 crew who are putting on these amazing events. I know Eggman has been super busy with just everything going on in the Bandai sphere. So we do have a new group that's putting together these tournaments, and I will be casting the event this Saturday. So definitely make sure to check it out and get excited for more gameplay that's going to really dictate the meta and decide where things are going to go from here. And especially how some of these first tournaments go, I would not be surprised at all if we see these metas replicated in that first regional at Gen Con. So this first event is already full, and then there's going to be a case event right around the corner that is going to be as many people sign up for it. You're going to get a spot, and let's really get together and play some Union Arena. But with that out of the way, of course, they did also host a more recent event. And so for Blue, I got to give it up to Moonrose, who took it down with Blue JJK. And honestly, if there was going to be a single deck or a single archetype that I think everyone is at least aware of or keeping in mind, it's going to be Blue JJK. Whether you're playing the all-in UG list or if you're playing the more Nanami hybrid to really make use of that special that is very good in this format right now, both of these decks are going to be insanely well positioned into the current format because they are just all-around powerhouse deck. So Blue JJK is really more of a tempo-driven deck because you have so many ways of bouncing your opponent's cards back to their hand or just forcing them to be in a position where they have to block, and you get that impact off of Sukuna can make it really difficult for your opponent to stick a board. And as we know in Union Arena, once you fall too far behind, even if you're not down to your last life, it can be really difficult to come back in some scenarios, and the Raid UJ really excels at bouncing cards back to your opponent's hand and making it very difficult for them to develop a board. The key mark of Blue otherwise is also drawing a bunch of extra cards, and that's where we have Maki, which can really help with the deck filtering. And then we also have Sukuna's Finger, which is really helpful for powering up Sukuna, spoiler, flavor. But it is also great at filtering your deck, and because you get to do it for free with Yuji by resting him in your energy line most often, it's just a great way to increase the overall consistency of your deck. And that is going to be a key theme that you're going to hear in the rest of this section, that because it is a best of one game, you really want to play the most consistent decks where possible. Moving into yellow, and Creamy took this with a 4-1 at that same Draw 3 event, is One Punch Man taking the pick for yellow here. Now, this is a more traditional, what we call hybrid approach, where you also have Hellish Blizzard in here, which is the other yellow deck, it really just gives you a bunch of extra draw that can really help bring these pieces together. You could totally play this without the Hellish Blizzard package kind of built into it, but again, we really want to lean into more of that draw and filtering capability that we have in most traditionally in other colors that yellow finally got with this deck in One Punch Man. So the yellow One Punch Man deck with Saitama and Genos as the staples is really more of just your mid-range powerhouse of punching through and making sure you get those consistent damage to really pressure your opponent's life total quickly. So while it might not seem like this is a deck that wants to, really set up multiple strong attacks or go extra wide like some of the other decks that we have and are going to talk about, it is really about that consistent damage to threat that can get in turn after turn and really pressure your opponent, that Genos can just come right behind and finish it off with a impact 1 or 2 when you really need it to get those last couple points of life down. So if you want to play a deck that's just all about heavy punching your opponent and can get some really nicely timed color triggers, then yellow One Punch Man is for you. Moving on to green, and from that same event, we have McDogs taking the Shinon deck to a 4-1 finish as well. And I know a lot of people might say Kurapika or Landslide is kind of other key staples, but look, when you get all this extra filtering and top of deck searching that Shinon gets, and especially the Kirito, which is just an active trigger, which cards that we want to be playing a 4 of that also have an active trigger or other beneficial trigger on them is just peak. This is a deck that is good right now that only gets better with Volume 2. So if you are someone who wants to pick up this deck early before some of the alt art prices have already spiked, but if you want to pick up this deck before some of the base rarity cards spike in price, I definitely recommend picking this up before the competitive season because this is one that is going to dominate the meta in my opinion. So green, Sword Art Online is really more of your mid-late game style of deck that's all about board control. Green traditionally wants to ramp up into a bunch of these 7 or 8 costed or energy payoffs, but Shinon being a 6 energy card just does so much work for what you want to be doing. And this deck is really all about the death in taxes style of just grinding out your opponent's resources while also fixing your draws so that turn after turn, your opponent might be only hitting 1 energy or 0 energy units, and you're just constantly finding gas and filtering for either more raids or more removal to find you even more raids on top of it. So this deck really gets to a point where you set up your energy line and then just every turn you're drawing raids. And that's exactly the spot that you want to be in the late game for Union Arena. And while this version doesn't have the 4K Kirito that you can play that draws you extra cards as well, that is another option for just consistent 4K attackers that this deck can line up. Now, going back to purple, and this is one that hasn't been talked about in a little while, but look, Purple Code Geass is still a banger of a deck. One, it just has all the triggers in the world, so it feels like you're always getting something out of life, and this is just a key removal style purple that we know and love in a bunch of other Bandai games. And I got to give it up to Mr. Woody here that took it 6-0 in the last major Eggman event, showing us the true powerhouse of comboing together MK2 and Gawain. And again, with just having so much extra draw or filtering, either draw from the draw triggers that you're going to be hitting, or the C2 SR is actually very strong as well. If you find the right sequencing, getting to draw the 2 extra cards can really help line up the key pieces that you want to do. And of course, because you can raid into Gawain off of it, it gives you the perfect fodder that you want to be playing. So Gawain is all about that mid-range heavy removal, and then also being able to finish it off with the MK2 package to give you that really powerful impact. So again, for those that maybe played Union Arena at the start, especially with like Purple Bleach, this really is just consistent removal, good stuff that can also force out a lot of interesting board positions from your opponent. So like blue JJK bouncing it to your hand, Purple Code Geass just says we're removing it, but in both cases, it's going to set your opponent back significantly if you find the right key pieces turn after turn, because those action point costs really start to build up. And last but not least, technically we haven't been able to showcase a red deck, at least in the tournament so far. But listen, I got to give it up to Sonic. And I know a lot of people are going to be talking about the red Asta deck that comes out later this month with Black Clover. And it is a good deck, don't get me wrong. but it is one that requires you to have certain setup or certain cards under other cards, where Speed of Sound Sonic is just like, look, I'm here. As long as you're not playing Saitama, I'm getting in multiple attacks. I have an impact option for the late game if I really need it. I have so much extra card draw off Boros, even if I'm having to take my own life from it. And it's a card that can also protect its raid target by going to its back line with the active battle switches. So if you are someone who wants to play a more aggressive deck and you're all about getting in multiple attacks and really just rushing down your opponent's life total and wanted to play something in red, then Sonic One Punch Man is the deck for you. And again, I think this is a real deck. I think it definitely has some legs on it. Yes, it might be a tier 1.5 or even tier 2, but especially in a best of one game, if you're able to just run a little hot at a tournament setting, you're able to go the distance with this style of deck. And I definitely think with some of the other lists that we've talked about, you do want to be a more lower to the ground aggressive strategy that also has a bunch of extra draw built into it that makes sure that you can find those extra raid pieces. So again, consistency, draw power, that's what really makes up these core of these decks to make them powerhouse staples that you can look forward to playing, either playing with or playing against in the first Union Arena Regional coming to us at Gen Con. So with that out of the way, let me know your thoughts. Are you excited for the Gen Con Regional? Are you waiting to see if we get one back in like Florida or California or wherever the Bandai Card Games Fest are going to be? Definitely let me know your thoughts down below. And again, later this month, we have Black Clover to look forward to, as well as Bleach Volume 2. So there is a lot for me to catch up on. I just got to find time to record some matches and connect with other content creators, but lots more Union Arena content or videos to look forward to. So make sure to like and subscribe for all the great things to come in the near future. So until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.